enough of your attacks on my technology. Unbelievable. It's not that complicated. And it's not like I'm a tech noob. Well, good God, I was there when they invented this stuff and I've been using it ever since. But hey, we seem to be live now. It says we're on the air. I hope nobody heard me swearing when none of it wanted to work before. But we're going to do something interesting right now. And that should be James Middlebrook. I see him. Hey, let's just take a moment to go ahead and hate on all of the social media channels we're broadcasting this on, and the internet, and the FCC, and Joe Biden, and everybody else. Everybody can kiss my mother. I just knocked over about a 16-ounce glass of shite all over the floor.
No, it's a professional program.
All right. You know, that's what you get. That's what you get for the high quality stuff you're paying for on this channel. You get me swearing, pointing to my ass, and knocking over giant glasses of stuff all over the floor. I'm just going to leave it because what am I going to do? Stop now and clean it up? Ain't going to happen. So since we actually managed to get this live and actually managed to have somebody to talk to, I want to talk. And I got a few things I'm chafed about. So, Mr. Middlebrook, the first thing that I'm chafed about is this guy, Merrick Garland. Now, I don't know. You remember?
Yeah, it's funny. He's still around, huh? I thought they buried him.
So. They buried him in the Senate when Obama thought he was going to make him a Supreme Court justice. And then he became a cause celeb for the left. And they decided, Merrick Garland, we got to do something with him. So I guess as kind of a payback for the fact that he got jacked around and didn't get to be a Supreme Court justice, they're going to make him Attorney General. Now, here's the thing. By the rules of the game, he's qualified. He's every bit as qualified as anybody else they want to pick for that job. But what he's doing right now, and his confirmation hearing is today, is why he's on my mind. And I caught just enough of it to hear him pandering and saying he's going to be essentially the woke Attorney General. He's going to focus on racial inequity and inequality. He's going to focus on domestic terrorism as one of his main things. And the thing is, if he was going to focus on domestic terrorism, I probably wouldn't have a problem. But by his definition, that means he's going after white supremacists and conservatives and ignoring Black Lives Matter and Antifa, who are legitimate terrorist groups.
And I think one of the problems too is blurring that line. We talk about this often of there are white supremacists and they deserve to be condemned wholeheartedly. And that doesn't make every conservative that. And for them, they want to blur that line to make it all the same. And then they can use the state to go after them.
And that's the really scary thing is we saw during Trump's administration what happens when the permanent bureaucracy, the deep state, abuses its power to attack its political enemies. That was with a Republican president and Republican Senate. Now we have a Democrat Senate, we have a Democrat House, we have a Democrat sleeping in the basement of the White House, and we have the entire deep state empowered. And I'm worried. I know they're going to go after conservatives, and essentially the goal is to criminalize conservatism.
Yeah.
I'm not down with that. And neither were the founders. That's not what the Constitution's for. And we got a problem. We can't allow that to happen.
Yeah. What do you think? Did you see Merrick today? He spoke about the differences that he wants to use the DOJ for racial equity and racial equality. What do you think about that?
All right. Here is the buzzword everyone needs to keep an eye on. And both of these they're going to use, but the dangerous one is equity. When they talk about now, when you say equality, we want equality. We want everyone to be equal. Great. So do I. I want everyone to be equal. And I want that equality to be based on equality of opportunity because people aren't equal. Not all people are equal, not by race or anything else. But every individual is more or less good at every form of human endeavor. And so as long as they've got equality of opportunity and nothing's holding them back, they can achieve to their full potential. That's actual equality. Equity is equality of outcome, not opportunity. And that's what they're scared, because equity sounds good, right? Oh, it's equity. Of course we want equity. Everything should be equitable. Well, yeah, except for one thing. They use equity to mean if people achieve differently, and then you can look at the outcomes and see a disparate outcome for certain races, creeds, colors, genders, whatever, all of the identity politics categories, then they want to go ahead and say that's not equity. Therefore, we have to change whatever is causing this inequitable outcome. And that's not how we do things. That's not how it's supposed to work.
Like there would be anything inherently wrong with any disparate outcome in the end. That's
by definition, if they have a disparate outcome, then they have a lack of equity, which must be fixed. And that's crazy. That's crazy right there. Yeah. There was, most people don't know, there was a science fiction story a long time ago by a guy named Harlan Ellison, and it was called Harrison Bergeron. And in this story, what they did was they took and basically handicapped people to make them all equal. Okay. So if you were a fast runner, they put weights on you. If you had better vision, they put glasses on you to blur your vision. They basically took and dumbed everything down to the lowest common denominator, so they got equity. Yeah. And the problem is that's not what they're looking for here. They don't want to actually do anything where they raise anyone up. I guess maybe they are doing the same thing. What they want to do is take achievements and take wealth and take the other things that come with high achievement and redistribute them, a la socialism. So equity is just a fancy way of saying redistribute the wealth, and from each according to their ability, to each according to their need.
Yeah, I mean, and it's interesting, we talk privately about this, but when you say those things like that, and that's what they believe, who else really championed that? What group of people really is that? They call themselves socialists, but
oh, no. I'm done. Socialism's too soft for these losers. All right. They're commies. They're communist scumbags, and let's just stop. It's more fun. Dirty commies. That was fun. They were our real enemy. Now the Chinese are still communists, so we still got a problem with them. So why not? Let's just go ahead, and Biden's team seems to love the Chi-Coms, so let's make them communists. And in the end, socialism is just a path to communism. Once you start down that, it's like Erdogan of Turkey said. He said, democracy is like a bus. You just take it to your destination, then you get off. Well, for these guys, right? Yeah. It's the same thing. They want to take democracy to their destination, which they would call maybe democratic socialism, and then get off and make sure that candidates who don't agree with them, people who have the wrong beliefs, can't put those beliefs into play. That's why they need censorship. That's why they need all these things, to go ahead and get the ideas they want determined to be the right ones, and all other ideas marginalized and shut down. And they're doing pretty good at it so far, got to admit.
Well, and it's interesting too, because it almost, by their strategy, it's almost admitting that it is antithetical to the American ethos, right? To what Americans really want. So you have to go in and call it different things, and we have to do it like step by step, because Americans know that they love free markets and freedom principle and free market principles, and having the ability to spend my rewards of my labor how I choose to spend it.
That I think you're right, except for those now who are educated in the woke schools, who are being taught that capitalism and free markets are not a good thing because they lead to inequitable outcomes, right? So they've got a little circle they do. Now, and they've got no way to say that you can ever reach equity. That's the nice thing. There is no way to ever fix this, and that's what they want. Because if you need to continue to fix something, what do you need to do that? You need power. Yeah. You need the ability to control the people. And so what they want is they don't trust the American people or any people to go ahead and do the right thing. They're not going to do what the left believes they need to do. And for them, it's a life or death situation. They truly believe that if you don't follow the principles of woke society, you're killing the planet. You're committing violence with your words, you're committing violence with your actions, you're hurting people, and you basically are a thought criminal, and an anti-humanist.
Yeah,
And it's evil.
they really only want you to have the freedom to do what they want you to do.
There you go.
You know?
And they're tolerant of all beliefs of people who agree with them.
Yeah.
And that's the truly comical part is, oh yeah, we're tolerant. We're the tolerant people. The right's intolerant. No, the right is tolerant of disparate beliefs, and that's kind of the difference. They have taken themselves so seriously that they now believe that anyone who disagrees with them is not a disagreeable person or someone, who we can agree to disagree with, that they are actually evil.
Yeah.
And so they go ahead and they feel empowered to shut people down because they're doing the world, they're saving the world by stopping that from happening. And the difference is, I don't think the left is evil. I think they're misguided. I think they've been poorly informed. I think they have bad ideas that don't work, but I don't think they're doing it to be evil. And I read an article today where this guy was talking about how the rich white men of the world are conspiring to fool the rubes in flyover country to do their bidding because all they want is more money and to oppress people of color and women. And I was like, wow. But he believes it, and so do the rest of them. And that's a tough thing to fight against.
Yeah. Did you see the Coca-Cola HR training that they did?
I love when they actually show their true colors, and their true color is to try to be less white, which I don't know how I could do that. Not even from a pigmentation perspective, because I'm kind of a peachy pink color, so I don't know that I ever qualify as white. And I wasn't white until they told me I was white. That's the funny thing. I never identified as white. I never thought of white in any meaningful way until, say, the past 5 years. And now it's become something that I have to consider in everything I do. My whiteness is, I think they actually invented whiteness. Whiteness is a way of acting, and it's an empowerment thing. And so Coca-Cola had this training that they were offering to their people, and they claimed they didn't actually sponsor it. It was sponsored and written and produced by Robin DiAngelo, who wrote White Fragility, which I happened to launch 25,000 words into the world, pointing out how absolutely racist and wrong she was about that. And so it's unsurprising that this training that the Coke employees were getting based on her, and it was done by her. It was an online course that she had built, contained things like, these are traits of whiteness you should avoid. And I was like, wow, and then they had the famous slide, which everybody I think is online has seen, that said, try to be less white. And I mean, no one can even imagine that being said about another race, but it's perfectly fine to go ahead and say that about white people. And I don't want to be white. I want to be an American. I've always been an American, and I was always tolerant and happy with anyone else who believed that being an American was your primary identification in the public space. In your private space, you can be a Christian, you can be whatever. But when we come together in this country, we're Americans first, and then the melting pot makes us, cognizant of all of the other good things that came with each culture and race.
Yeah. Do you think we're getting to a point where we have a problem that, we're supposed to be the melting pot, but it seems more and more likely that we're more of a salad bowl now instead? Not really, you're picking and choosing. They don't really blend all together like the pot, but they are all still in the same bowl. And
they did that. That's one of the things, and I don't know how long ago they started trying to push that rather than the melting pot. And I guess the idea was that it's hard to maintain your identity politics if people do what I said. Which is, my family is Swedish. My grandmother came over here on a boat. Right? My grandmother. So that makes me what, a second generation American?
Yeah.
But I'm an American, not a Swedish American. Sweden's cool. I like Sweden. I've got some IKEA furniture. There are other things, but I don't primarily identify with the fact that I have to be Swedish rather than an American.
Yeah.
And the left is just hypersensitive and convinced that what they need is for everyone to be their identity group first, so they can use that to, to generate grievances and gather power and spoils based on that. And then they're the ones who distribute the spoils. And like I said, it's an ongoing thing. It never ends. Because if you fix it, where's the power? If we have equality, then they're not happy, because that's still not equity. And humans will never all achieve at the same rate. So there never can be equity. Consequently, being a woke leftist is it's a self-licking ice cream cone. It goes on forever.
Yeah. Well, with your book there and everything, what do you think the people on the right can do about this?
Well, and it's real simple. Fight back.
Okay.
At this point, you're already a racist. You're already all of the bad things. There's nothing they can say or do to you that they're not going to say or do to you anyhow. And it's funny, we've been watching some of this play out. There's the famous Churchill quote about, an appeaser is the one who feeds the crocodile hoping it eats him last. Mm-hmm. There was a great example of that with a guy named David French. And David French, I think he used to write for National Review. I think he left with Jonah Goldberg and some of the other Never Trump cucks. And they formed this thing, I think they call the Dispatch, right? Which is their thing. All right. And they're like the soft, spineless Republicans who don't want to fight too hard because they might make someone mad, but they're willing to lose to the left because of that. So rather than fight hard enough to win, they'd rather lose and not rock the boat. And so this guy is the perfect example of the spineless former, Republican establishment guy.
Okay.
He was perfectly happy when they kicked Alex Jones off social media, perfectly happy when they kicked Trump off, perfectly happy when they shut down Parler, the new Twitter competitor that Amazon and Google and Apple conspired to take offline. They literally wiped them out, refused them service and wiped them out. Well, what happened was, guess what? This week, one of his friends got their book banned by Amazon. And now he's all up in arms. It's the worst thing in the world if social media companies take these horrific actions, and Amazon's not a social media company, but they're a leftist woke.
They're a marketplace. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're essentially the only legitimately major online marketplace.
Yeah.
So if your book gets kicked off Amazon, you got a problem. And the reason his book got kicked off Amazon wasn't because it defied the conventional woke wisdom on transsexuals. Okay. It made the horrifyingly transgressive point that men can't become women just because they want to. You can't just, I can't decide tomorrow afternoon that I'm Becky and I'm suddenly a woman. I can be Becky, and I'm fine. If you decided you want to be Jamaica or whatever, and tomorrow you tell me you're a girl and I got to call you Jamaica, I'll call you Jamaica, right? That's fine. I don't care. You can be whoever you want. It doesn't matter to me, but you can't tell me and force me to act in a way that says, no, but I actually am a woman, not just my version of it in my mind, right? Or in polite society. If you want to wear a dress, I don't care. I don't care what you wear. In Scotland, they wear kilts. That's essentially a dress, right? And they're tough guys. I don't care what you wear. And so the problem was, by transgressing against that, and this guy's book said that the woke agenda, which lets you have boys who say they are girls now, go ahead and compete in women's sports in high school and college. And they're dominating, what I mean? You got guys who are crushing, and you're not allowed to say, though, in woke society, you're not allowed to say that they aren't women. So they've got this whole thing, and it's a giant rigmarole that they don't know what to do. And so there's one of the things the Biden administration has said is they want to pass legislation that requires every government entity and anyone who takes government money to act in a way that equates your gender identity, meaning what you say you are, not what biology says you are, but what you say you are as your sex, which is what biology and science says you are. And yeah, I mean, think of all the implications of that.
Yeah. And I think what's interesting, and if we go back to like revolutions, communist revolutions and things, it's culture too. Take over the culture, start changing word meanings. Things don't actually mean anything. They can be whatever you want them to be. And that's how you can gain control over mass populations.
Somebody wrote a book about that, Orwell, didn't he? Didn't he? Where they had, ignorance is strength, war is peace, slavery is freedom.
Yeah.
I mean, freedom is slavery. Well, whatever. It was just everything is exactly what they say it is. And that's 100% what they did. They did it with racism, where racism used to mean being bigoted against a particular race. And the left said, no, that doesn't work for us because we think only white people can be racist. So they added the additional thing that you had to be part of a cultural hegemony or in a position of power to be a racist. So if you were one of the oppressed victim groups, you couldn't be racist, that's a great trick, but it's exactly what you said.
Rightfully upset with your oppressive.
Yeah. Whereas, Whitey's just a bad person. I'm sorry. That's not real. And like you said, it's a made up way to change the game. Here's a fun one though. And this came out this week. There is a campground, and I'm not sure if it's in Wisconsin. It's somewhere in the north, but it is a gay campground. Okay. All right. Now gay in the LGBTQRSUVXYZ is men. All right. Gay is men who like men.
Okay.
But that runs into a problem in the woke world because men doesn't necessarily mean what these gay men think of when they say men. And so now, and I've got a term I like to use called the circular firing squad, the woke circular firing squad, because their policies and their ideology isn't coherent. No. Right? You can't get it together. You can't make all of this work together because you run into what happened here. So here's what happened. The woke rule says that if you say you're a man, and therefore you can do anything that men are supposed to do in any way. So this was a campground for men, gay men, and they like to run around naked by the pool and do gay stuff.
Good for them. Trans
men showed up and they were missing something. They were missing the essential tool of manhood. All right. They did not have the same thing the other gay men had when they were running naked around the pool. And the gay men were like, that's I can't do anything with that. They literally,
that's not what I'm into.
That's not me. And so they banned trans men from their gay campground.
Okay.
And now the LGBTQRSTUV, they're all pissed off because that blows their whole thing. Because one of the key, components of their thing and one of the largest chunks of their LGBTQ is gay men. And if those guys get out of the boat, what's next? They lose that whole homogeneity, whatever. I'm not getting words today. So anyhow, I think that to me is the first piece of their fracture.
Okay.
Because wokeness doesn't make sense unless you just decide that what you want is control of what everyone else is doing, and you're not too concerned about whether it makes any sense. And it doesn't, and it can't, because like we just said, what are you going to do if you've got the gay guys who consider manhood to include manhood?
Yeah.
And you don't have it. And it's going to play out this way, because if the Biden crew gets this, law passed, that, and it's got some, the Equality for Everybody Act. Yeah. Probably
if you oppose it, you're a bigot act.
There you go. You're a hater.
Yep.
And it's not there. That's the thing. And I think that's where, when we talk about what we can do to fight back, is we can point out, we're not hating. We're just pointing out that that's batshit crazy.
Well, I think what's interesting, Jim, is that you started off with this, and in every instance, you're like, hey, I'm cool with all, like, this is all right. Just don't bring it into my life. When you start passing laws like that, then it starts getting into your life.
Yeah. And I don't even mind if it's in my life. I associate with gay people. I have zero problem with
Yeah, I
anyone's
just meant in the sense of
sexuality.
like it's starting to change the culture, not about
Yeah.
other life choices, but the changing if you start making these laws of equating these things, and it's going to change things across the board everywhere. You know.
Oh, and it's going to change them in a way that won't work. And
Okay.
that's the main thing about wokeness is it's an emotional religion. All right. It's
Mm,
got no, it's got
that's
no core
interesting.
principles, but it's designed to make everyone feel better about themselves, basically.
Okay.
Because what you're doing is you're saying, if I'm woke,
Mhm.
then I am sensitive and I care about other people's feelings and I won't do anything to give anyone bad feels. And no one's allowed to give me bad feels.
Yeah.
Wrong. I mean, wrong. You no longer live in a free society if you remove the right to offend.
Mhm.
And that doesn't mean being offensive is a good thing. It's not.
No.
But it is a right. And what you can't do though, even aside from the idea of someone being purposely offensive, like
Mhm.
calling gay people names or calling, transsexual people names. All right, that's mean.
Yeah.
All right, mean,
There's
and people shouldn't
no
do it.
place for it.
No, and there's no need to it. But mean people are going to do mean things.
Mhm.
Here's the problem: when you decide that the goal is to stop allowing people to be offended, when you appoint yourselves the referees of offense and
Yeah.
you say, we will decide what you can and can't do because we think these things might offend someone, you've created, again, beyond a self-licking ice cream cone, you've created a perpetual motion grievance machine
Yeah.
because everybody's got an idea. And when you tell people that they are empowered to not be offended, imagine the stuff they can come up with,
Yeah.
and but that's their goal. That
That's
is literally a
really
core. That's
interesting.
why it's an emotional religion. It's a substitute for actual religion, and it's based on the emotions of stopping people from feeling bad and making them feel good in a virtue signaling kind of way. I virtue signal that I accept transsexuals by letting them actually be men, even though
Mhm.
they can't, in a biological sense. And so that's one of those times, you got to listen to the science, yeah, except for this science, because it's immature. You're going to put that science over here, because
Mhm.
don't worry about that science. That's the bad science.
Yeah, that's really interesting stuff.
Yeah, well, it's blowing up in their faces as we speak, and that's a good thing because
Mm.
they're crazy, but they're winning, and that's the thing.
Yeah. Well, which is interesting with the electoral politics is like, how do you think that that plays to the average voter? If fine, take your microphone and start talking like that, and start spreading these ideas, and then we'll see what happens in the coming elections. But they did just run, House, in the last one, so it's interesting.
Well, during the 2020 election, even though Trump lost, by a large amount in the electoral or in the popular vote,
Hmm.
the Republicans overall picked up House seats.
That's right. That's
And guess what? The most recent polling in a lot of the major things, and this is the lefty polls too, shows that Democrats are hemorrhaging working class voters
yeah,
and Republicans are picking them up. Now,
yeah,
the question is, where is the bulk of America? There are more working class people than there are educated professionals who went to Smith College, and who were taught that you are what you say you are,
hmm,
regardless of what the X's and Y's of your chromosomes may happen to disconcur about.
yeah,
So if you want to look at where, and the Democrats forever were the party of the working purpose. I almost said
yeah.
working man. Whoa, that's because I'm old. But the bottom line is, it's no longer the case. The Democrats showed that they don't care about working people, both with the COVID lockdowns and the lack of
Yeah,
compassion for everyone who was trying to make a living, mostly by these, middle class information working liberals who were sitting in apartments, getting paid their full salary,
yep,
working on a computer.
yep.
So for them, the only difference was they didn't have to actually, commute to work.
Yeah,
Other than
so
that, their
their
lives didn't
budget
change.
went up.
There you go. And they gained a little bit of free time. And,
Mhm.
the downside was they still got to deal with their kids at home instead of sending them away. But other than that, it was not a problem. The
Yep.
working class got devastated.
Yeah.
You know, they actually have to go to, they either had to go to work in the midst of this and deal with that, or their job was shut down and they were screwed.
Yeah.
Now, everybody who earns a paycheck or has a friend or family member who does saw that happen, and they know
Yep.
who was voting for the lockdowns and who was against, and that's Democrats versus Republicans. You've also got in the same game all the wokeness that we just talked about. And they look at that, and they looked at the BLM Antifa riots of last year, which again destroyed, thousands of businesses nationwide were destroyed. It was like, oh, you've got insurance. Don't worry about it. Just file your insurance. A lot of those small businesses don't.
No.
And they just got wiped out. People's entire life's work was destroyed as the left threw a national tantrum or insurrection. So the idea that somehow those people are going to continue to vote Democrat because tolerance, when there's no tolerance left in the Democrat Party, no, it ain't going to work like that. So I think if Republicans are smart, which is kind of an oxymoron, but if we can make the right act smart, regardless of what the Republican Party does, we can point out that voting Democrat is the same as signing your own cultural death warrant and killing prosperity and security. And those are good things that the Republicans can offer.
Yeah, I mean that's a heck of a message to bring to the voters. But there's 2 years, and we'll see what happens for the next couple, and what gets through with Democrat control of the federal government.
And fortunately, they're doing exactly what we'd hoped, which is they're going crazy. So, I hope they keep helping us recruit for our side. Well, James, dude, it's been fun.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, it works as a thing. And what we'll do in the coming times is we'll go ahead and invite people in from the comments and whatever. As long as you got a webcam and a mic, we've got the capability now that I figured out how to work this to bring guests in, and we want just people. It's not like I'm trying to get the famous, the Hoy, or the big superstars on here. I hear them all the time. Everybody does. I want to hear America. We want to talk to everybody, and so that's you people. Right on. All right, James, thanks, man. We're going to shut this down.
Thanks for having me.
What's today? Today, Monday? We'll do this again tomorrow at 4.
Sounds good.
See you then.